Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Security Squawk Podcast. I'm Bryan Hornung, joined as always by my co-host Randy Bryan, and of course Reginald Andre is here too. How are you, gentlemen?
All right, man. We got the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Cowboys.
No, we only got the Eagles.
Sounds like the beginning to a bad joke.
No joke.
Yeah. Go Birds. That's all we got. So we got a strong lineup this week, boys. We got three big cybersecurities hitting totally different worlds today. We got a government services contractor with a massive data breach, a major university dealing with stolen donor data, and even the British Library knocked offline by ransomware. Three very different targets, but the same story underneath: bad security, missed basics, and big consequences. So stick around. We'll unpack what happened, what you can learn from it, and where some people really dropped the ball. Randy, good to see you. Andre, I know you're ready to jump in, so I'm going to start off with my topic, which is the University of Pennsylvania donor data breach, guys.
All right.
And yeah, this one is kind of funny because I got a lot of friends that went to this school. Obviously, I'm in the area of where University of Pennsylvania is, which is in Philadelphia. So being so close to it, obviously it hits close to home, as they say, and you have more than your fair share of people who've been impacted by this. And what happened here, guys, is a hacker claimed to have stolen data from about 1.2 million donors. And donors. We've talked about this before, like why people would want to hit nonprofits or university for their donors and what that means. For right now, we know that names, email addresses, home addresses, and in some cases, the financial details from people who actually gave money to the university are now in the hands of a cyber criminal who's threatening to release that data if the university does not pay. So here's the kicker, guys. It wasn't even detected by Penn at all. The hacker blasted out, I don't know how many thousands of emails, and bragged about it on a cybercrime forum, and that's how word got out. So this is how a lot of companies figure this out. Imagine learning about your own breach from a post on the dark web or some security researcher coming to you saying like, hey, this is out there about you. Now, I've done this. Have you guys done something like this and gone to a company and kind of say, hey, this is out there about you? Have you guys ever done? And I mean, it's met with skepticism 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It's no different than what we experience when we responsibly disclose vulnerabilities to like software companies and hardware companies, right?
Yep.
You go to the guys that created the software and you say, hey, we found a problem here. And they're like, we don't believe you. Right. And it's like almost 100% of the time, you're going to be met with that. So, that's kind of probably more than likely what happened here for a few days, where people at Penn's IT were like, we don't believe you. There's nobody in our systems. So here's a quick rundown of where we're at. The hacker claims they got in through a compromised web portal connected to the school's fundraising system. They say that the stolen data includes full donor records and potentially some payment information. Yikes. The university hasn't confirmed how much was actually taken, but screenshots from the leak show personal data that looks very real, according to security researchers who've seen it. It being tied to the same crew behind several higher ed attacks already this year, going after universities for data that they can resell or use for phishing purposes, right? So we've talked about this a number of times, how these things play out. Universities like this are gold mines of personal information, alumni databases of probably high net worth individuals, more than likely. donors, researchers, people who are doing lots of research at that university and are getting this money, right? Think about it this way. There's research labs at UPenn that do a lot of really amazing research and things like that. And there are private donors who are funding that. There's also government funding that through HHS and things like that. But, donors also see worthwhile projects and give their own hard-earned money to these different things. And, sometimes people don't agree with research policies and things like that are being conducted out there. And that can be used against certain people. So, but what I know is that these systems typically, run older systems. It's not like they're worried about these systems from a high level security standard. It's kind of like these are almost like the bastard child systems that the IT department kind of, looks at, right? And usually these systems have limited budgets, and which means lots of open access. So, if you think that this is just, these breaches that we talk about at universities are just a college problem, remember, you could be a CEO of a major company giving money to this organization, and now all your information and everything that you've donated is out there. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, this was humiliating, if you didn't even talk about specifically what the messages says, but we definitely saw some bad words, let's put it that way, in there, and some embarrassing things about obviously they're not true, but just bad things nevertheless. And like you said, this is going to be a treasure trove for future people that purchase this list, these email addresses. Because you guys have give days in November, right? There's a big November give day right before Thanksgiving, and this is going to be so many emails that says like Penn Foundation giving or endowment matching fund. They're going to see a lot of emails, and hopefully the university does a good job marketing to say, look, verify any emails that you get. Anything related to funding, or if you are going to donate, please go directly to our website. Don't trust any emails, because they're going to see a big dip in giving, because literally people are going to be giving to the wrong organization.
Yeah. I mean, you take this information plus a little bit of bad GPT, right? A little bit of bad AI, and can start crafting and just pull in a little bit of other data off the dark web and start crafting just, very, very targeted emails. And out of 1.2 million donors, that's 1,200,000. I guarantee you they could get 1,000 people to click just like that on something. So this kind of hack, Bryan, it ought to strike fear into every single CEO of a public institution, of a nonprofit, anybody that relies on donors, because you don't want to shy the donors away. You don't want them to get hacked. This is something that every CEO of one of those organizations, it ought to be at the top of one of the top priorities that they have, is making sure that their donor data is secure and it's not going to get out there and get on the dark web, because obviously a lot of these people are people who have a heart, people that want to support their alma mater, who knows what. There's a lot to be taken advantage of here, and it just underscores the need to take it very seriously when you're dealing with donor data.
And also keep in mind that, a lot of times as cybersecurity experts, when we're talking with clients about, using password managers, protecting your QuickBooks Online, your Salesforce, but a lot of times marketing is forgotten. Nobody's talking about protecting your YouTube channel, your social media, your, if you're sending out emails through MailChimp or whatever, usually marketing, they're over there with their Max with Randy, and nobody touches them, right? But you got to make sure that on the marketing side, whatever tools that they're using, those softwares are protected, and there's mechanism that can just have some type of system where before it blasts out 1.2 million emails, there's something that there's some type of layer of protection there as well.
Yeah, they need some DMARC and stuff on their domain too. See if people are trying to trick them and help prevent some of that. Anyway, that's a nerd thing, but you know what I'm saying.
Definitely a nerd thing. But if you want to know what Randy's talking about, you can absolutely reach out to us and we'll clue you in. But there's definitely technical things you can do, but those technical things don't always work. So you need those layers of protection if you want to stay cyber resilient. We say it every week, and the story doesn't change. You know, guys, one thing I think about, and this is kind of like Andre's level of thinking, and because I'm so close to this university, you know, over the years, and especially in the last 10 years, this particular university has, you know, really expanded their footprint in the city. They've built some really beautiful buildings that have really enhanced the skyline of Philadelphia. They've really done a lot for the city of Philadelphia in terms of making it a better place, no doubt, right? But it's one of those things I just scratch my head when I see all these big, beautiful buildings being built, and the ability of them to, you know, just have money for millions on these shiny new buildings, but can't find the budget to patch these servers and do these things the right way. Maybe the next funding campaign should be MFA for this account that was compromised because it wasn't on. If they got in that easy, it wasn't on, and we know that. So food for thought there. But I'm going to hand this one off now. Randy, you're up next with this Conduent story. And this isn't the first time, I believe, with this group. But what's happening here with Conduent?
Yeah, you're totally not wrong. So this group was hacked back in 2020. So this is no excuse time as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so what happened about a year ago? So last October, bad guys got into their system. Over the course of October, November, December, we're able to get like 8 terabytes of data out of the network, actually 8.5 terabytes of data. And it wasn't just names and emails. It's what we would call the full identity kit, man. Social security numbers, medical histories, insurance IDs, claims data. Basically, what this company does, it's a spinoff of Xerox. They do documents. They take care of benefits. They're involved in people's medical stuff. You have like governments are involved with this company. Wisconsin DCF, Oklahoma Human Services. You've got all kinds of like Blue Cross, Blue Shield that are involved with this company. The crazy thing, they found it in January, which according to HIPAA, HIPAA is the rules that cover medical information. They should have done some kind of notification like mid-March-ish. Not really seeing any sign of that. Seeing a little like generic notification of stuff that went out. But they didn't really go full-blown notification until here very, very recently. So we've already got lawsuits that are flying. We've already got people that are concerned about what's going on. This is a company that deals with somewhere around $85 billion in payments every year. This is a really big deal. And I would say, you know how every once in a while we get these breaches, Bryan, that are going to have this like long lasting effect, you know, and sometimes it's a little one, sometimes it's a big one. I think this is one of those that's going to have a really long lasting effect because it's not their first time to get hacked. They're involved in so many levels with government and with insurance companies. I really see this developing into a big deal. And then I would say like a couple of takeaways. If I was anybody listening to this show, I would make sure that you have your credit frozen from all three. If you're in the States, we have 3 credit reporting bureaus. I would make sure that you have your credit frozen, which basically means if they try to ping your credit to open a loan or something like that, it's denied and it stops that. And then also we really got to be on the alert. Can you imagine, because of this, getting an email talking about a portal, talking about your payment didn't go through or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I know I made that. And you get a little upset and you click on it. We're going to see a lot of fallout like that from this. And then with these lawsuits that are happening, because people were maybe warned a little bit earlier in the year, but not with a lot of detail. It looks like, and now a lot of details coming out, and you're going to have people that are going to be opening lawsuits because, they really weren't able to defend themselves. And another little juicy tidbit. We've got some people, it appears, that are being offered credit monitoring and other people that aren't. So this just seems like a big mess right now.
Yeah. Andre?
Yeah. I just want to go back to that 8.5 terabytes. This is not like a quick breach. This is something that had to take a long time. It was undetected. And then the second point I wanted to make is, Conduent is not a company I personally never heard of before, but it is a company that, companies like Medicaid, child support services, a lot of other services. So this becomes a supply chain issue where Conduent could probably, hide and not take much of the heat, but the people or the services that are using their services, they need to make sure that they now tell their clients or their customers, hey, this happened, please be careful. Because as we saw with, I think it was Power Schools, where you had something happen it basically was the supply chain. So another company got hacked, but then you had two people pointing the finger saying, well, you should tell them. No, you should tell them. So hopefully this doesn't happen. Obviously, there's going to be lawsuits because there's a lot of money to be made here. But more importantly, like Randy is saying, is the consumer who has that sensitive information with this company. Because again, you, the end user, you never gave your information to Conduent. It was the company that you're dealing with that gave them the information.
Yeah. So Conduent isn't as Randy pointed out, some mom and pop shop. They handle sensitive data for government agencies and healthcare providers, but the basics failed again. Andre, you mentioned this long dwell time, or the time that they've been in it, coupled with no ability to contain what was happening. And as a result, millions of people's data is exposed. So if your company touches client data, especially sensitive data, you need to treat your network like it's already been breached and start cleaning up these holes, because that's the new normal. Once they get in, they're going to take full advantage of what's available to them, whether it's living off the land, whether it's vulnerabilities. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to create as much damage as they can. So any other thoughts here, guys, before we move into Andre's?
Yeah, one more thing, so being that they had to service, government contracts, they definitely had to have standards that the government said you had to have. But this just shows that compliance. No?
Don't.
Well, let me finish. This
should.
Yeah, and this shows why the compliance isn't security. Because a lot of times you'll see companies, they're going to say, oh, we're ISO, we're this, and nice little logos, but then that doesn't actually mean they're following it or doing it.
And Bryan, based on what you were saying, so are you saying if they were prepared, it would have limited the blast radius?
Oh, of course it would have. Yes. Wait a minute.
All right, you gotta get a little faster on that. You guys,
I'm new at this.
So. All right.
But yeah, so it's just interesting. I mean, it's these organizations. You mentioned compliance, Andre, and I'm just going to say, compliance in this world, to me, after doing this for 15 years, is always going to be a cat and mouse game. Mm-hmm. And the name of the game is the government regulators say, do it this way, do it that way. And the companies look around and say, okay, who's really checking? And to a T, right? We saw it with HIPAA. And I told you guys, we're seeing it with CMMC. Like a lot of these defense contractors, where everybody thought this was going to be the thing that everybody, these companies are going to follow this because they have to. bro, they're looking around going, who's actually auditing who? And
Right.
we're not going to spend all this money until we see companies actually being held accountable. But on the flip side, when I talk to companies who've done the right thing and gone through the process, guys, they're saying the same thing. We just spent all this money. Now there better be enforcement, right? Nobody believes there's going to be enforcement,
Right.
right? We put all these rules out there, but nobody enforces them.
Yeah.
And that's a major problem for doing cybersecurity the right way. So, all right, I had that up on the screen. You're right, Andre. I messed up there, shared the wrong article. So this
No
one's
problem.
back up on the screen anyway. Andre, here we go. This overseas, we're taking it as we like to do now. British Library, ransomware, now public data, total shutdown. What's going on?
All right, this one's for Luke. So we have British Library, which is one of the largest libraries in the world. In October 2023, they got breached, and as a result, they had to shut down all of their digital systems, and their staff data got leaked onto the dark web. So now here we are, November 2025, 2 years later, and the employees are still emotionally and operationally recovering. So there's a few things happening. So first of all, their systems or part of their systems are still down. So when you go to the library, if you remember when you were a kid and you would ask the library, where's Dr. Seuss? And they would take a little sheet of paper and write it on the, used recycled paper and give it to you. They're still having to do that. They're now having to remember that, the 800 section is that way and things like that, where before there would be kiosk systems and other electronic ways that a patron can come and just basically do it. They're having to do that type of work. In addition to that, staff, because of the leak, has have to make major changes in their personal lives, because you had their, employment information, their passport, the typical stuff that you would give your employer when you're starting. That information got leaked, and some people have actually been scammed. And apparently there's also employees that have had domestic violence situations, and now that information is out in the dark web, and they don't want, that person who may be looking for them, or they're in hiding, or whatever the case is, they can possibly now find them because of this. So all this because the library didn't want to pay 600,000 euros in the ransomware. And 2 years later, the staff morale is bad. You have trust issues. They haven't gotten a raise. And just imagine now, someone visiting the library is asking for something and saying, why do I have to go through all these steps? Why is it so hard? And the poor librarian is getting the brunt of being yelled at on something that wasn't their fault. So it's just really a bad time right now for these people. And that's kind of the gist of it right now of what's happening.
This is really crazy, Andre. This library houses the Magna Carta, which is like the first big, it's like foundation of Western civilization, a big treaty between people and the monarchy and that. And like they have 170 million items. And here they are 2 years and a month after a cyber attack, and they're still having to do things by hand. This is just, I'm dumbfounded, man. I feel like I'm going to pull a muscle in my neck from just shaking my head so much. Like, it's almost like they should just start over. Just get some new software that can handle 170 million books and just start over. Because like, what are they doing? Like, why is stuff still down? And why are they still struggling along, man? And like, I don't know. It's just, like I said, can't stop shaking my head, man. This is crazy. It's crazy you found this.
Yeah.
Well, it's also probably going to be very difficult because now the manpower to now enter all of these things into the new system. I'm sure there's, SaaS providers wanting to, hey, we're a library software company. We'd love to be your client, but that's going to be a lot of manpower.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, man, this is like, national institution, tons of history. running legacy systems, and completely taken offline because they couldn't keep their remote access secure. The part that kills me is you mentioned that they had employee passport scans and the stolen data. And that's a whole new level of failure, in my opinion. And this comes from the country that's pushing digital IDs. Like, who's going to trust this country with something like that? You know what I mean? You can't call yourself a steward of national knowledge if your IT looks like it's from 1999.
Yep.
So that's where it's at, in my opinion. So, all right, guys, any last thoughts before I run into the show wrap up? So let's wrap it up then. Andre or Randy looks like he's ready to go. So nobody's safe out there, guys, big or small, public or private. If you've got data, you're on the list. Conduent proves your partners can burn you just as fast as your own staff. And the British Library is a perfect case study in what happens when you postpone upgrades year after year. None of these attacks were instant hits. They all had dwell time. And someone could have caught it if they had the right things in place.
Yep.
So take the time to audit your remote access, check your vendor links, and tighten up the basics here, folks, because week after week, story after story on this show, it's a failure of the basics. It's nothing sophisticated whatsoever. That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in to the Security Squawk. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, review where you can. It really helps us get this information out to more people. And hey, if you like what we're doing, support the show. Buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Security Squawk. We'll see you next time. Stay smart, stay aware, and don't be in the next headline.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.